I'm back again, and I have another story called How to Read to a Grandma or Grandpa. That's kind of a funny little book, and it's written by Jean Reagan, illustrated by Lee Wildish. You may have heard How to Babysit a Grandpa. That's another book she wrote, and some other ones too are fun that she has. How to Catch Santa, How to Surprise a Dad, How to Raise a Mom. Some funny titles. Okay, well, here we go. In the front cover of the book, they have a bunch of books of different types because we're going to be talking about different kinds of books. So they're giving some examples of different kind of books that you could maybe read with your grandma and grandpa. And then on the cover page, it says How to Read to a Grandma or Grandpa, and it shows Grandma and Grandpa are outside at their house. There's a pet kitty and a pet doggy that are excited, and here come their grandchildren, a little girl and a little boy. They arrived on their scooter and their bike, and they set them down, and they're going to come in. Grandma and Grandpa are greeting them, and they're going to come in and have a story time, a visit, which will include a story time, okay? Well, reading is a blast. I love to read too, don't you? But if you want to make it extra fun, read to a grandma or a grandpa. And there they are in the living room. You can see some of the things on the floor and a chair and a couch, and there they are with the kitty and the doggy and grandma and grandpa with the kids, and they're looking at a book. Looks nice and cozy, doesn't it? Well, if you're going to read to a grandma or grandpa, this is what you do. First, you help them pick a book, okay? Where do you find a good book? Well, one way is to look on your bookshelf, right? And if you're a grandma and grandpa, you can look on their bookshelf. Now, it looks to me like grandpa has a really high number of shelves here, and he has to climb a ladder to get a book. So that's what they're doing. But that's not the only place to find a book on the bookshelf. Also, you can look in your bed. Maybe you were reading a book one day while you were sitting on your bed, or when you went to bed and it got under the covers. So they're looking under the covers. And meanwhile, who finds a book under the bed? Grandpa. Or you could look in your car. You could have taken a book with you on a trip and left it in the car, in the trunk. And there's the kitty sitting on a book on the top of the car. Or you could have left it in the back seat, or who knows where. So, bookshelf, bed, car, wherever you can find it, okay? Then ask, what are your favorite things to read about? Well, there's a lot of different choices. How about Adventures in Space? And she's made a rocket and some space helmets, an antenna out of boxes and kitchen tools. Or how about a book about dinosaurs? And he's dressed like one, isn't he? Or how about Sparkly Castles? They have a pop-up book that has a castle that popped out. And so they're using their magic wand. They're using their imaginations, aren't they? Or how about a book about spooky monsters? And there they are. Look at the little eyeballs, and it's kind of dark, and they look like they're a little scared, and they're saying, "Rah!" And look at this one. How about a book about grandmas and grandpas? Grandma and grandpa think that's kind of funny, and they're dressed up just like them. Oh, that's kind of funny. Well, did you find a really great book? If not, take your grandma to choose a new one. Other places to look for books outside of your home? Where would you go if you couldn't find a book you wanted to read, or you'd read a lot of them and you wanted a new book? Where would you go? Here's some ideas I bet you thought of. One would be a bookstore. They're taking grandma to the bookstore. Looks like they brought up their a dog, or someone else left their dog. That doesn't look like theirs. I think it's another friend's dog. But the bookstore is a good place to get a book. But another place that's one of my favorites is the library. And here's a librarian helping grandma and the kids find some books. Or you could go to your classroom. If you are in school, preschool, or regular school, you can find books in the classroom on the shelf. And look who's visiting the classroom that day. Grandma. That sounds fun, right? So those are just some ideas of other places to get books. And back at home, you can get some pillows and blankets so you can snuggle up to read. Doesn't that sound nice? For grandparents who live far away, show them how to snuggle up long distance. So here's two pictures. Here's Grandpa coming with a nice plate of cookies. And Grandma and the two kids, and they got their pillows and blankets, and the doggy and kitty are there, see? And they're all ready to snuggle. And this is if Grandma and Grandpa don't live nearby and you have to talk on a portal or a computer screen or a phone FaceTime or whatever it is. You could snuggle in bed together and read, and there's Grandma and Grandpa. They may not be snuggling with their arms, but they can be nearby, right? Which is a nice thing too. And what's this? Well, it says now you're ready to start. Oops, not yet. Where did Grandpa leave his reading glasses? And the kids and Grandma are kind of laughing, but he found them under a pillow. Okay, now we can start. We're ready. Okay, well, if you're going to read a book to Grandma and Grandpa, you have to practice how to read in different voices, because that makes it much more interesting, don't you think? Okay, well, try a big voice for an action book. You might say, crash, bang, kaboom, and yell it nice and loud. Or you might try a silly voice if you're reading a funny book, like, ho, 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 ha, ha, ha. And that's what they're doing here. Here's the crash, bang, kaboom. And here's the ha-has, hee-hees, and a funny face. Or, if you're reading an inspiring story, you use a brave voice and you say, I can do it. And show you that first. There's the brave voice with her shield and her helmet and sword and vest, and she's being a brave soldier. But if you're reading a bedtime book, then you might want to read with a whispery voice and say, sweet dreams. And that's what he's doing down there with that book. You can see it's a nighttime book with stars and a moon. And it's like a little fairy and a magic wand. Next, show them different ways to turn the page. A super funny page is something that you might want to read again and again because it's so funny. So you might want to turn it back and forth, like turn the page like this and say, and then turn it back and then go, oh, because you want to look at it again and again and remember how funny it was. Until your grandma is all worn out from laughing. She can't stop laughing. But if it's a scary page, offer to peek ahead to make sure things don't get too spooky. Yikes! Here's a picture with Grandpa covering his eyes, and Grandma's kind of hiding under the table and peeking out. Is it okay to look at the next page? Maybe you better check. Or if Grandpa or Grandma shares a book that's very old, that was maybe theirs when they were young, or even their parents, your great-grandparents, then the book is older. It will be more breakable, what we call fragile. So if you take the page and just turn it kind of hard, it might rip right out of the book. Or a piece of the page may come off and rip and tear off. So you have to go slow and gentle and careful. Very softly turn the page in those kinds of books. Okay, so there's some tips on turning pages. Okay? When you finish the book, decide together how much you liked it. That's always kind of fun to talk about. Well, what did you think about that book? And here the kids have all the books spread out on the floor that they've been reading that day. and they're holding some too, and Grandpa's snuggling or cuddling one book that he really liked, looks like, and the doggy's even on a book. Anyway, they're talking about what they liked, which book was their favorite, and then you can ask your grandma, what was your favorite part? And when she tells you her answer, see if she can guess what your favorite part was. Sometimes when you know each other pretty well, you can figure it out. You say, I bet you liked the part where, whatever, the princess was turned into a frog. Maybe the frog turned into a princess. Anyway, after reading a stack of books, your grandpa or grandma may get antsy. That's kind of like, oh, I'm tired of sitting. Let's get up and move around a little bit. That means it's time to get up and play. How to play together? Well, you can act out the book. You could stretch and stomp like a ninja dinosaur. Stomp, 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 stomp. Okay? Or you could act out anything. That's just an example. Or you could try a science experiment from your book. Or a recipe. So it means go to the kitchen or a place where it's okay to get a little messy and try something that you read about in the book. And there's a picture of what they did. They were doing an experiment of making a volcano. They made the mountain, they put in vinegar and baking soda, which I've done before, and it's supposed to go up and over the top, but this time it went pretty high and went right over Grandpa's face. Oh my goodness, what a mess. But it looks like the grandkids and Grandma think it's kind of funny, right? I guess it didn't hurt him. Or you could build something tall with your blocks or your Legos, and then you can knock it over. And then you get to say those loud words. Crash, boom, bang, kaboom. If you ever want to make their story time extra special, you could read to your grandpa or grandma in a brand new place. In other words, not just in your house or grandma and grandpa's house, whose ever house. You could go outside. Maybe you could read about bugs in a bug book in a garden. We went to a butterfly garden once. That'd be a cute place to read a book about butterflies, wouldn't it? Or if you want to read about trucks, go to a construction site and read a book by some trucks and these kinds of equipment that you'd see the men with their hard hats on and equipment, and it's kind of a good place to learn about construction, right? Or you might go to a ballet, maybe with Grandma, and you could read a ballet book in the concert hall while you're waiting for the ballet to start. And there's Grandma and you got to kind of read quietly because there'll be other people around. But that's a really good place to read a ballet book. Or how about on a snowy day when Grandpa gives you a ride in a sled? I know a grandpa that did that before. And they're reading a book on the sled. Now that's kind of fun. I'll tell you what though, I think it'd be more fun to go for the sled ride and hang on tight and look at the snow and Grandpa and your sister, brother, and enjoy being outside in the fresh air and the snow. And then when you come inside, read a book about snowy days, right? It's kind of hard to hang on and look at all the scenery if you're holding a book and looking at it. But this book is just being kind of funny. One thing I have not pointed out is they have two little like lizard characters that pop up every now and then, and here they are there. We could read the whole book over and find those on every page, and that would be kind of fun. Because they stick them in here and there. Or, here's a good one. You could read an owl book by the light of the moon. And we just did that. Yeah, about a week or two ago, we read a book about a full moon and a father and daughter going out to see an owl. Yeah, they lived out in the country, and there's Grandma reading, and they're sitting on a blanket, or laying on a blanket, and there's the moon, and maybe they'll see an owl, or at least hear one. Ooh, 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 ooh. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. There's different kinds of owl calls, but that hooting sound is common amongst all owls. But no matter where you read or what you read, when you get to the end, your grandma or grandpa will probably ask, "Can you read to me again, please?" And of course, what will you say? I bet you know. Yes! That's what that says. Y-E-S exclamation mark means yes! Oh, Doggy and Kitty again. Yes, we'd be happy to read you another book. And that is the end. And the last inside cover shows pictures of some of the things we talked about. Just some outside pictures with Grandma and Grandpa and inside pictures and just some cute things about grandmas and grandpas. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed How to Read to a Grandma or Grandpa. I know I like to be read to by grandkids. And I love you and see you later. Bye.